Mojang just released a big new update for the winter drop. We have tons of updates to the Creaking and the Pale Garden, 6 new blocks, a new armor trim, and even Creaking farms, along with so much more. So let's hop into it. So we have 6 new blocks in this update, along with 4 new items and 2 new flowers. These are the brand new resin blocks, and they look absolutely incredible. I love this bright orange that we got. Of course, there are stairs, there are slabs, there are walls. We even have bricks for them and resin clumps as well. Overall, looking pretty good here. Now, they sound very squishy because, of course, these are resin. Yeah, great sound design all around. And then, of course, we have our 2 flowers right here. So we have the closed blossom, and then we have the opened eye blossom. So these things will close up during the day, and then they will actually open up at night and have a little bit of a glow to it. So as you see, at midnight, they do glow a little bit, but they do not emit any light. So if we spam around a few of these things, yeah, they look pretty nice. These are going to help guide you through the Pale Garden. And now that we actually have some flowers in here, maybe we can call it a garden instead of a forest. So how do you get the new blocks? Well, it's fairly straightforward-ish. So you can see that this is actually another new type of block right here, sort of. So this is just the resin clumps that like placed down on the ground and stuff, and they actually look really, really nice. It's kind of almost like the ore texture, but just spammed on top of whatever you want. So these are actually going to generate around the creaking hearts inside of the pale oak trees, as you can see there. Now, if you break one of the creaking hearts, this is also going to drop some of those, you know, resin clumps, but not very many. Well, I think that that was the only creaking heart in this entire biome, and I just broke it for the videos. So it's a good thing that we can now craft the creaking heart, and it's actually renewable now. So first things first, there is a lot of different recipes, of course, for all of this garbage. So the resin can be smelted in a furnace, and that turns it into the resin bricks. So you can take your resin bricks and you can turn those into resin bricks, and then of course once you have those, you can make the slabs, you can make the stairs, you can make the walls, you can do all the things. And then I think it's 2 of these slabs, yeah, to make yourself the chiseled resin. So all really standard, straightforward recipes there. But if you take these resin clumps, this is where it gets interesting. So now we can make ourselves a block of resin out of 9 of them, and then if you take 1 block of resin and 2 pale oak logs, you can actually make yourself a creaking heart, as you can see here, and this will actually spawn yourself in some creakings. Now, of course, for this to activate, you need to have a pale log above it, and then you also need to have a pale log below it, and it also needs to be nighttime. So as you can see, now we've gotten ourselves a creaking right here, and if we look away from this guy, he's actually going to move around and be spooky. Right then, so let's kind of go ahead and attack him real quick just to see if that spawns us in some resin. And it actually does! Okay, so as you can see, we can actually farm the resin now, which is exactly what we need, because getting this in the wild, it quickly blew up the entire area of creepers. So as you see, you could just kind of pop that off right there. We attack this guy again, we get another one. So this will require manual attacking from the player in order to actually summon in this resin, because this guy doesn't take damage in any other way. Okay, mind the horrible setup, but we now have automatic creaking and resin farms on Bedrock Edition. This is very poorly set up, but Trident Killers do actually act as a player attack, so that's very good. And then you can just set up some pistons to automatically break the resin, and then I imagine we can put down a lot more of these pale oak logs so that it spreads further. Of course, we can, you know, break them from all sides, and then we can get even multiple of these creaking hearts and multiple creaking in there as well. So overall, we got resin farms, baby. Now, if you want to do something like this on Java, you can maybe use like dogs attacking this guy, or just an auto clicker and sweeping edge, because you're on Java, you could figure it out. But we got Trident Killers on Bedrock, so we're set to go for some full automation here. And why, yes, the creaking farms have been possible for all about 15 minutes, and I already designed one. You're welcome. Now, you can also find some of this resin stuff in the chests inside of the Woodland Mansion as well, which is interesting lore lore-wise, because the pillagers have been here. Also, the naturally generated Creaking hearts now drop from 20 to 24 experience, even if they're collected with Silk Touch, which is pretty nice. So, of course, you can't just place it down and pick it up again, because it has to be naturally generated. But the ones that you do find out in the wild will give you a little bit of experience when you harvest them. So, interestingly, you can also use the resin clumps as an armor trim material. So, if we put that into the smithing table along with a, chest plate or whatever and a trim, as you can see, we now get a new type of material, which is looking really good. Very bright orange here. Groova would love it. And this is unlike any other color that we have. The copper is, of course, much darker than this. So, interestingly, this flower gives you two different dye types because there's two different states of it. The closed one and the open one are considered two different items, even though they're basically the same flower. Just depends on the time of day. So, of course, if you put the closed one into the crafting grid, you get some gray dye, which is fantastic. Great way to get gray dye. And then the open one gives you some orange dye, which is kind of cool, I guess. Now, biggest question of the day is, can we bone meal these? And yes, we can. We now have a fantastic source of gray dye in Minecraft without needing any ink. Now, you can also just bone meal the ground inside of the Pale Garden, and you'll be able to get some flowers that way. So, allegedly, these flowers actually communicate with each other a little bit, so they'll help each other open up at night and close up during the day, but I don't really observe that happening too much. Oh, and by the way, if you place these in, like, the nether or the end dimension, they'll just stay in whatever state you place them in, since there's no day-night cycle in those dimensions. So this is a horrible mechanic, but if bees interact with the eye blossoms in any way, then they're actually supposed to get poison from it, which doesn't really appear to be working right now, but they're supposed to get poisoned. And of course, a new type of flower means new types of suspicious stew, so you get two different variants depending on what type of the flower that you use. So this one was the open flower, and this is going to give us a blindness effect, which is great. And this one was the closed flower, and that's going to give us nausea, which is fantastic. Love it, no notes. And then we have a bunch of updates to the Creaking itself and a lot of refinements and bug fixes and some gameplay changes to the actual Pale Garden. So if we check out this guy real quick, he's actually going to have a faster attack speed and be more aggravated, and he's also going to deal more damage as well. So I'm wearing a pumpkin right now, and as you can see, his walking animation has been updated, and I'm also wearing 2 pieces of netherite, and he's actually now dealing 1.5 hearts of damage to me. So he is much more aggravated. He looks like he's broken several bones in order to be able to walk like that, but he's still not able to actually outrun the player. But as you can see, if you're not careful, he can damage you and kill you over time. Yeah, no, I would definitely recommend running. We also have some updates to the animation for when this guy dies. So if you destroy the Creaking heart, then as you can see, he's actually going to wither away a little bit over a couple seconds and then die, which is actually a really cool animation. So if the Creaking dies, that's going to activate a Skulk Catalyst, as you can see here, but it's not going to actually spread any Skulk anywhere because, of course, the Creaking doesn't drop any experience. So a naturally spawned Creaking from a Creaking heart will not avoid any damage blocks like magma blocks or cactus or anything because they are invulnerable. However, one spawned from a spawn egg will actually avoid these blocks since you can just straight up kill these guys. Remember, they're two very different mobs. The ones spawned with commands and spawn eggs are very vulnerable, but the ones from the Creaking hearts are very different, and they are invulnerable. There's also a number of other bug fixes and gameplay updates and other little tweaks and changes to the new winter drop update, but none of it is super interesting. It's just refinements and little updates. I think this is a great little update that really flushes out the features of the Pale Garden, and maybe we'll even see a couple more things get added in future snapshots and betas. But if you want to stay up to date with more Minecraft news, then make sure to subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.